So this is absolutely pathetic. Nearly 1,000 scientists, veterinarians, and other purported experts have now signed what they're calling the Dublin Declaration. This is a document which argues that animal farming and animal consumption plays a vital role in providing nutritious and sustainable food in global society. Reading from the document now, livestock systems must progress on the basis of the highest scientific standards. They are too precious to society to become the victim of simplification, reductionism, or zealotry. Now, the word victim is doing a whole lot of work here, but we'll keep it moving. For that, scientists are asked to provide reliable evidence of their nutrition and health benefits, environmental sustainability, sociocultural and economic values, as well as for solutions for the many improvements that are needed. In other words, they're doing propaganda, not science. All right, science is a specific thing. Science is the pursuit of knowledge and understanding of the world via a systemic methodology based on actual evidence. But they're not looking for evidence. They're not looking for knowledge. As they say, they've already made up their minds about their conclusion to promote the so-called livestock industry. So they're actually starting with their conclusion and working backwards to try to justify it. Again, not science, that is propaganda. Returning to the document here. This declaration aims to give voice to the many scientists around the world who research diligently, honestly, and successfully in the various disciplines in order to achieve a balanced view of the future of animal agriculture. So, note on the framing here. They frame their stated commitment to defending this industry, propaganda, as a balanced view. So I'm not sure what exactly is balanced here when you're automatically defending this industry. I guess it's like, well, we're not saying that 100% of what you eat should be dead animals, so that's why we're rational. Just how very sober and thoughtful and considerate of you. To say this money-making industry absolutely must continue to exist, and we'll let you eat some vegetables on the side here. Just pathetic, embarrassing. Back to the document here. At the same time, some methods and scale of animal production systems present challenges with regards to biodiversity, climate change, and nutrient flows, as well as animal health and welfare. So, on one hand, they're super alarmist about any criticisms of animal ag. Animal ag is the victim, and we cannot have zealotry, and this sort of thing is how they talk about people who are critiquing this industry. But when they talk about the issues that present animal agriculture, look at how they minimize it. They say animal ag presents some challenges in regard to biodiversity. That's one way to say it's the single greatest driver of wildlife habitat loss and destruction globally, with a current rate of extinction up to 1,000 times greater than natural background rates. And they say animal ag presents some challenges with regard to climate change. Animal agriculture is responsible for at least 15% of greenhouse gas emissions globally, with no sign of slowing down. They say that animal agriculture presents some challenges with regard to animal health and welfare. Well, 99% of animals used for food are raised in factory farm settings. We're talking filthy industrial sheds where they're cramming animals into battery cages and gestation crates that are barely larger than their own body, cutting off tails and testicles of animals with no anesthetics. I mean, barbaric animal abuse is not just the norm for animal agriculture, it's practically all there is in animal agriculture. So let's move on here. Livestock-derived foods provide a variety of essential nutrients and other health-promoting compounds. So, yeah, animal flesh provides some nutritional sustenance. There are some nutrients there, like if you are starving, it can in fact keep you alive. The same thing can be said about crystal clear Pepsi. Now, why weren't we lighting our dicks on fire about that one when it went away? Where are they at? Where are they at? Lost them. Moving on. For millennia, livestock farming has provided humankind with food, clothing, power, manure, glad we have lots of manure, employment and income, as well as assets, collateral, insurance, and social status. So this is just beyond embarrassing. Like, you're scientists, you don't have to get into, appealing to tradition, logical fallacy 101 here. Oh, we've been doing it for a long time, so, let's keep it going. Hard to imagine that the folks signing this don't realize how shallow that is, but nonetheless, it's in here, and not just in one place, multiple places. They are really referencing this is deeply embedded in cultures around the globe, and we've been doing it for millennia. There's, I think in one spot they're talking about this cultural wisdom. I mean, this mass factory farming is just so near and dear to the hearts of these soulless sellout ghouls. All right, back to the document. It says, livestock-derived foods are the most readily available source of high-quality proteins and several essential nutrients for the global consumer. Now, note what they're doing there, and they do at several different points throughout this document. They are actually referencing the plight of impoverished people in developing nations around the world as a means to rationalizing the devastating impacts of a mega industry, which is largely of the global north, which, by the way, the global north is where over 80% of the signatories also reside. I got news for you. Poor people in Senegal do not give two fucks about your so-called declaration. They'll never read it. They'll never be affected by it. And it's hard to imagine that the signatories don't know that. The aim here with this, that particular argument, as well as with this whole document, is not to persuade. It is not persuasion, but it is paralysis. Well, I guess if poor people in the world really need to eat animals, so somehow that means we're good to keep on keeping on here. Onward with the document. Livestock ownership is also the most frequent form of private ownership of assets in the world and forms the basis of rural community financial capital. In some communities, livestock is one of the few assets that women can own and is an entry point towards gender equality. So woke of them. This might be the most shameful argument of the litany of shameful arguments here. So this is coming from an industry which can only exist through the mass exploitative labor of immigrants. It's also an industry where the executives are overwhelmingly old white men. And so they're just tossing in a little nudge there. Hey, we're all about that whole gender equality thing. Like, the people who are signing this, who are coming up with this stuff, totally scoff at this stuff. Like, they would, I mean, how many of those 1,000 signatories in their private life are like, I'm just really concerned about gender equity, and I just really, women have, there's just, I don't know, we just really got to do something. Like, the empowerment of women is so crucial for the advancement of society, and it really just keeps me up at night. Just pure, shameless trash. All right, we're going to keep it moving. Advances in animal sciences and related technologies are currently improving livestock performance along all the above-mentioned dimensions of health, environment, and socioeconomics faster than at any time in history. All right, another little slick propagandist trick. So they're saying, well, the industry is making these sort of improvements faster than it ever has in history. Okay, so they're presenting it to you in relative terms. They're not saying, we are the most green industry on the planet. We are only 1% of global greenhouse gas emissions or something like that. They're just saying we're better than we've ever been before. Like, okay, so you started off really horrible bad, and now we're like slightly a little bit better. And they, rephrase it in such a way to be like, wow, the best it's ever been in history. Holy shit, that's fucking amazing. I think I need to start eating animals. I think they got me. I think I'm out of here. All right, back to the document here, which, by the way, I'm pulling select excerpts from this document. I encourage people to go check out the entire thing for yourself. But here it says, Human civilization has been built on livestock from initiating the Bronze Age more than 5,000 years ago. Wow, 5,000 is a big number. I don't even think anyone has ever counted that high before, so that probably means something real good for eating animals. I don't just, wow, 5,000. Hey, has anybody even heard anybody say a number that big? I didn't even think that was possible. Holy shit, they really got me rethinking some things here. More than 5,000 years ago is when it was initiated towards being the bedrock of food security for modern societies today. Livestock is the millennial-long proven method to create healthy nutrition and secure livelihoods, a wisdom deeply embedded in cultural values everywhere. So I'm sure that the immigrants that are being exploited en masse by this industry, I'm sure they feel just a deep connection when they're working at factory farms and slaughterhouses, when they're facing these increased rates of suicide and depression and addiction and alcoholism and violence, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure they just have this very somber, I mean, almost religious. I mean, just a very deep passion for what this industry has to offer them, to what they're really deriving from, and they feel like a deep connection with the blood that's splattering all around them all day long. Back to the document. Sustainable livestock will also provide solutions for the additional challenge of today to stay within the safe operating zone of planet Earth's boundaries, the only Earth we have. I don't need to repeat myself here too much. It's the devastation that this industry brings on the planet, and they're just speaking in such profound language about this is the only Earth we have. Please stop eating vegetables. That's just got to be horrible in some way. I'm sure it is. If I write it enough times, it makes it become kind of true. As you have probably guessed, these signatories here are a litany of animal scientists, vets, agronomists, etc., with industry ties. Are they being sincere in saying this stuff? Perhaps they are, maybe they're not, but I think it's kind of like Noam Chomsky says, it's not about, whether or not you believe the things that you're saying. It's that if you didn't believe those, if you believed something different, you wouldn't be sitting where you're sitting. These folks wouldn't have these positions as animal veterinarians, et cetera, if they didn't care more about the industry than they care about the well-being of individual animals. And so, I know that's a thing that a lot of people will talk about, stuff like this. Like, I mean, are these people for real? Whatever. Bottom line is, like, there's a slice of society, certainly, that do think this stuff, makes any damn sense to make these kind of arguments, and that slice of society are going to be the people that find their way into these positions, touting the industry. And the influence that animal agriculture creates is a system which just absolutely stifles dissent. Those who are dogmatically touting the industry line are rewarded, while good faith critics are met with endless barriers. And I'll take the veterinary profession as a very good example. Veterinarians, all about helping animals, right? Well, not so fast. If you are a self-described animal rights activist or self-described vegan, in 2023, the curriculum and the norms of veterinary schools are increasingly and specifically designed to weed you out. You can love animals, you just have to love the industry that is exploiting them a little bit more. And Dr. Crystal Heath, I encourage people to look into her work. She's the founder of Our Honor, which is really trying to take a more individual animal-focused approach to the veterinary profession. It's unfathomable the amount of shenanigans that the veterinary industry is resorting to try to stifle her, to shut her up, keep her out of their conferences, to keep her from chiming in on online forums. And again, she's a veterinarian. She practices veterinary medicine, does a great job of it. And the problem they have with her is she's asking too damn many questions that they do not want to answer. And for a very good example of that here, I want you to take a look at this clip.
I feel you're a little more friendly of an audience than I've had the opportunity to present for over the past couple of years. Is we need data from you. And I know that we've seen some presented here. Even if it's not published, if it's a case report, if it's proprietary data, if it's unpublished data, the panel needs it. Some of these methods are at risk of leaving the guidelines. I think you probably have an idea of what those methods might be. We need data to support them staying in the document. So if you have questions about that and how AVMA handles some of that data when it's unpublished, and I have been involved in the handling of some of that data, I'm happy to speak with you about it. Mike Murphy, Warren Hess are down here as well, and while they don't provide direct support to the panels, they are well acquainted with AVMA's processes.
Okay, now that was Dr. Sia Johnson, Director of the Animal Welfare Division of the American Veterinary Medical Association. And as it was with this document, where they said at the outset, hey, we're here to tout the good side of this industry, that's what we want to present to the world, as opposed to saying, let's examine the impacts of this industry and decide what should become of it. They're, at the beginning of this document, what I was talking about was they're saying, hey, let's push the industry. And Dr. Johnson is doing the exact same thing in this video here. So she's talking about ventilation shutdown, which most of you probably know. This is this just, I mean, the most horrifying way to kill animals that you could possibly conceive of, just cooking animals to death, and they die of heat stroke with heat and steam pumped into the industrial sheds. And she's not saying, we need to get more evidence to consider what we're going to do about this method. We need to get more evidence to decide if we should continue with this method because there are a lot of critics. She is specifically soliciting, we need evidence to support the use of ventilation shutdown. We need evidence to argue in our favor. That is propaganda, that is not science, and that flies in the face of the oath that veterinarians take as part of their profession. And, this isn't even just a random veterinarian. This is, again, the person who is in charge of animal welfare for the largest veterinary organization in the world. Just galling stuff, just beyond pathetic. So where do we go from here? To me, I think that stigmatization is really a very solid response. People who carry water for this industry tend to be, well, for one thing, very much overpaid for that very reason, because they're doing something that people wouldn't normally want to do for the pay that they might get if they were a veterinarian taking care of dogs and cats. Not to mention that the people who end up in these positions tend to be kind of the flunkies who couldn't hack it in the more honest pursuits, and this is kind of the B league or the CDF league. They're selling their soul, and that is not cheap. And I think it is to our benefit as animal activists to drive up that premium, make those positions even less desirable by calling the stuff what it is, by pushing back against it and making that cost of doing business for the industry up higher and higher and higher. And this is something which I have seen play out successfully many times in my activism experience, where we would apply pressure to industry-aligned VIPs, and suddenly, very shortly thereafter, they're retiring. What the heck happened? Where'd you go? For example, Ken Sullivan used to be the CEO of Smithfield Foods and Direct Action Everywhere, of a series of protests that I was involved with. Went to his house, did protests at his house, actually sprayed pig feces on his lawn, which is exactly what his company does to countless individuals who are not living in these nice uppity suburban places where he lives. So we do that, we get some attention on it, and suddenly the CEO who'd been there for I can't even remember how many years, but a few months later, old Kenny stepping down, lost him. And actually, the next CEO that came in after him was Dennis Organ. Some of you may know where this is going. Dennis Organ was the CEO for just a few months, I think 3-4 months, when I was able to get on Fox Business, posing as Dennis Organ, and say some quite unflattering things about Smithfield and about the industry, and that got a ton of media attention and certainly embarrassed him and applied some of that stigma directly to him as a person. And then no more than a couple of months, might have even been a few weeks, but now suddenly Dennis Organ's stepping down. Dang, man. So, very short time period, he decides he doesn't want to do this CEO thing. All right, and to be very clear, people do not take a CEO position with the intention to just hold that job for a couple of months. All right, he got in there, the money was good, thought he could fly under the radar, who the hell knows who this guy is. Suddenly he's out there getting getting blasted very publicly. I think I'm good. Let me go take I don't even know what else he was like in like accounting or the finance department or something like that. But let's let some other schmuck step in here. Another example, in Sonoma County, California, where Direct Action Everywhere has done a lot of work investigating factory farms and this sort of thing. And there actually still are, I can't remember what the number is to, there are at least a few people who are still facing felony charges in Sonoma County. And the county district attorney that brought those charges originally, Jill Ravitch. Similar story. A lot of pressure, a lot of attention put on her. Why are you prosecuting these people who are just rescuing sick and dying animals? And dang, she just decided not to run for re-election. I don't know, she just kind of decided it was time to hang it up. That's how it goes. Last but not least, our good friend Noel Williams. He was the chief operating officer at Iowa Select Farms in 2020 when we exposed the ventilation shutdown mass pig killing that they were inflicting on these poor animals. And he was really the guy calling the shots as chief operating officer, collecting multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Just a good old boy, torturing some animals, flying under the radar. Suddenly he's showing up in social media videos, being embarrassed for what he's doing. There were home demos right outside of his house, protesting what he was involved with, and just floated off on us and decided he wanted to do something else with his life within a matter of a few months after that happened. It's just amazing how that happens. I mean, if you listen to our good friends writing up the Dublin Decree, I mean, what's not to love about this industry? But suddenly people want to really shine a light on it and everybody floats off on you. So bottom line, I think if people want to pull these kind of shenanigans, if people are going to be shills for the industry, let's make them famous. Name and shame.